Hi, Allie. I love you. And I wanted to thank you for being concerned about my silly story. Here is the next part. Chapter 3, Stranger and Stranger. Life was not easy for the only singleton in a town of twins. Strange she'd never considered it before. Was Corda unique? How many towns were there in this wide, cruel, barren land whose sole inhabitants were twins? Except for her, of course. Zebulun, her twin, had been dead almost a year now at the tender age of 14 in a hunting accident, and she was the only child remaining to her parents. Ironic, really, since she was the more redundant of the two. He was strong, handsome, popular, a great warrior. Zebina was small, insecure, forgettable, and almost invisible, which was just the way she liked it. Yes, settlement life could be harsh, even brutal at times, but Zeb had been a good brother. He did not deserve a life cut short at such an early age. As for her, she lived in his shadow. Zebulun had pleased his parents, done their bidding without question, been a great source of joy. She never seemed to accomplish any of those feats. Rebellious, shy, impulsive, a total conglomeration of opposing traits, never able to hold her tongue. Not exactly the proverbial black sheep, more like a whole flock. She knew the trite platitudes, yet her mind questioned everything. All she'd ever been taught by her parents about the one said that he was supposed to love his people, cherish them, protect them, provide for them. How could she even begin to believe in such a love when she knew none herself? Why would a supposedly good creator, the one who knows all, guides all, sees all, allow her brother to die? No answers in sight. The story of her life. Corda's townfolk didn't understand her, neither condemned her nor condoned her life or her choices. True, they didn't really care for her, but she wasn't completely ostracized either. For that, she was grateful. She remained aloof, trying hard to accept the lot she'd been handed in life. Zebina's mind returned to her original thought upon waking. Today felt strange, and excitement was in the air, like a new chapter had begun in the book of her life, as her parents called it. A fresh start was about to present itself, perhaps. She shook her head to clear the thoughts that remained, stretched gingerly, and climbed out of bed, dressing carefully so as to avoid the painful lacerations on her back. The drab gray shift hung shapeless and stiff as she furiously brushed her nondescript brown hair, finally sweeping it back and containing it with a blue ribbon, her favorite. Breakfast was a simple affair, often eggs, supplied by a neighbor in exchange for some of Mama's bread. The whole settlement survived, perhaps even thrived, on a barter system. She lit a fire and hummed softly, stirring the pan. Today her parents would have something extra special. Fresh basil and dill, grown in her very own garden. Calling them to breakfast, she started to set out the simple wooden plates. Hearing a sound outside, she paused. Noise was not unusual, since women's work began before daybreak. Yet she felt curious. As Zebina pulled the rough curtain aside, she gasped. Two strangers were sitting silently, less than 5 feet away from the hut, quietly staring, intently, at her. Pulling herself together enough to ask the commonly accepted village greeting, she murmured, "How may I serve you?" "The one be exalted in all things," answered the shorter one in a monotone voice. The two visitors rose and bowed low to the ground in front of her. She blushed, unaccustomed to such honor. The taller of the strangers, after glancing at his friend, studied her face. "Good morrow, Zebina Kirathim. We are here to serve you. I hope this day finds you well." His voice was surprisingly soft, at odds with his large frame. "Excuse me, who are you, and what do you want?" she snapped, that familiar fear gripping her heart, tying her stomach in knots at the sound of her name. The taller of the two laid a hand on her shoulder, eyes boring deep into hers. "I am Arab, and this is Zeb," he said kindly. "Mission, mandate, message, must be told," mumbled the shorter man. "Zeb," if she'd heard correctly. Zebina would be the first to admit she had fairly short fuse. Patience had never been a strength, naturally, and it was way too early to be having peculiar conversations with even more peculiar strangers, wearing tunics with a cut unfamiliar to her, probably from some place she'd never heard of. "We have come from the town of the prophets in the region of Vania," said Oreb, as if reading her mind. We have a message for you, Zebina Kiriathim. May we speak with you? He extended his hands in earnest. Town of the prophets? It actually exists? The rumors are true? Now that's interesting, she thought. Perhaps. However, she decided to dismiss the thought and pursue another. Mission? What mission? And why me? And how do you know my name? Her knots in her stomach were growing tighter with each passing moment. We know many things, Zebina Kirathim. We are come here to see if you are interested in knowing them. He smiled congenially. Since they concern you, may I suggest you say yes? Who are you? And please don't use my birth name. Zebina will be fine. Mission urgent. Be you unwilling? Asked Zeb in that same cryptic cadence. Weird talk, certainly, yet it increased her curiosity, which often led to trouble. What mission? She asked again cautiously. Sacrifice. Sacred meal. Oh, yeah, that Zeb was definitely bizarre. Hopefully harmless, but that remained to be seen. All in good time, my friend, all in good time. Oreb laid a hand on the arm of his traveling companion and spoke in hushed tones. May we rest a while and talk? Your parents must know of the choice set before you this day, Zebina. It is rather momentous, and you may want to seek their counsel. He gestured inside the hut. Recollecting her manners, Zebina nodded grudgingly. You are welcome here. Come, refresh yourselves. She found the familiar words strangely at odds with her true desires. Kicking herself mentally for being so rude when Cora placed such a high priority on kindness to strangers, she pulled back the curtain to the hut. Her mother's words came back to her. You never know when you may entertain the one unawares. Once again she had failed her parents and her town. What was new? Sighing, she walked to the shelf and reached for 2 more plates. The strangers stepped inside.